Welcome to the Grand Tour Series 3, Episode 8 review. The following review contains spoilers for the brand new episode, so if you haven't done so already, please head on over to Amazon Prime Video now to watch the episode and come back here later and watch the review. Without further ado, let's get into it. Hello and welcome. This week, the Grand Tour is on vacation. Jeremy Clarkson, Richard Hammond and James May go off and buy 3 RVs to go across the USA, and along the way there are mannerisms of which is expected of the 3 by this stage, which usually involve pissing each other off, usual antics such as stealing from the other RVs, by which I mean their own RVs. Usually you'd have Jeremy Clarkson and James May steal things from Richard Hammond and his RV, or you'd have it the other way around. And along the way, throughout this episode actually, there were multiple problems with the RVs. We see Jeremy, I think, has the most problem out of the presenters, as he firstly suffers from an oil leakage or coolant leakage from one part of the episode. He then ends up with a hole in the bottom of his RV for depositories, and then of course you have Hammond, who doesn't get the whole idea of going across America in an RV, so he ends up buying a pickup truck with the tail end of an L200 on the back of it, and he equips the truck with a massive tent, a rocking chair, and a sleeping bed, by which a camping bed or whatever you call it. And lo and behold, things are going great for him until he starts to have problems with his RV. Although, to my curiosity, Richard Hammond seems to be the one here in this week's episode who has the less problems out of the 2. Yes, his bonnet comes off when they do when they're doing the demolition derby. His engine begins to leak and his collapsed sun begins to fall off, but that was nothing compared to what Jeremy Clarkson or James May had to be put through. Jeremy Clarkson, being Jeremy Clarkson, added a boat to the top of his RV to make it more usable, while also adding a toilet to the inside of his RV, a jet ski, and had no brakes. So then he had to use James May and Richard Hammond as brakes for him when they were going across the Salt Lakes in Nevada, which was very interesting and very entertaining. There was no Conversation Street this week, as it was a special episode, specifically the second special that we got this series. I presume at the last episode, episode 13, will be a special again, where the presenters go to Mongolia and have to build a car from the ground up, which again will be a very interesting episode. Once again with this week, the episodes of this series just keep getting better and better, and I can't really fault them on anything. Going to the content of the RVs that they had, Jeremy decided to fit a kind of a sleeping quarters in the back of his RV with a boat front on the top of his roof. James May decided to be the local brewer on the go, with an on-the-go pub, supplying beer to the locals, and a lot of which was gaseous. And Richard Hammond then was being in his natural habitat with a massive tent, a rocking chair, a dirt bike, and a camping bed in the back of it, while also still having the company logo of the previous owner attached to the side door of the truck. As this episode progressed, we saw James May take part in dune buggying, racetrack racing, and a drifting competition. A lot of which you don't get to see James May do, so it's a rare sight that he does any of these. And for once, this has to be possibly the best episode of Series 3 that I've seen so far. Unless the Mongolia special tops anything, I don't think anything will get as much high praise as this week's episode did. Which means they can only get better with the next, well, episode 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, with the next 6 weeks to keep going. So hopefully they keep the momentum going, and hopefully we get to see some more great episodes. And interestingly enough, there is an anonymous person in this week's episode who, on the Grand Tour fan group Facebook page, a lot of people have said that it is the American NASCAR driver Mike Skinner. It certainly looked a lot like him, and I'm willing to keep my guesses at bay until possibly he is revealed. Yeah, so where I stand on this episode is, it's a brilliant episode, no faults, very funny, great chemistry, and I haven't laughed so hard in my life. It is hilarious. And for that reason, this week's episode gets a 10 out of 10 for me. Yeah, no faults whatsoever, everything spot on, great special. Hopefully we get to see more of them in the future, throughout this series. We have, I think, one more special to go before the series rounds off, and then we're into Series 4 then, early this year, possibly next year. So I'll see you next week for my preview of episode 9 of the Grand Tour. Until then, I'll see you later. Bye bye.